Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Rural Roundup, one of a 6-part series called Unsung Heroes. I'm Calum Johnston, and in this episode I visit James Strang at Temple's farm where we discussed genomics. Through speaking to James, it was clear to me that on his dairy farm, their unsung hero is data. Data is allowing them to input into their mating programme, improve their on-farm decision-making, selecting the best performing cattle for the job from the best part of the herd. Later in this episode, I'll be joined by a colleague of mine, James Orr, an agricultural advisor with a special interest in the carbon footprint of livestock systems, who will tell us more about this unsung hero, the benefits, the things to know if you're considering it, and the positive impact it could have on your farm or croft and on the planet. James, thanks very much for joining me on the podcast this afternoon. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for taking time out your day to do this. First of all, James, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the farm at home?
Hi there, I'm James Strang. I've been milking cows at Temple's farm since I left school 10 years ago, roughly now, which is quite sad to say. It's Temple's farm, Eagleson, and we're milking about 350 cows going through the parlour. It's all year round calving in a house system. We no longer put any cows outside to grass. We rear all our own young stock, and we rear all beef calves up to 500 kilos and sell them store now. So all that keeps us fairly busy. Yields are about 9,500 to 10,000, but we'll go on to that later. It's something we're hoping to improve through genetics and also technical performance. Our replacement rate is roughly 35%, which is good as it gives us the opportunity to bring a lot of new genetics through the herd quickly.
Very good. Just thinking then, you touch on genetics and genomic testing. For those listening to this podcast that perhaps don't know what genomic testing is, can you describe, kind of in layman's terms, what it is and what you're aiming to achieve with it?
So, genomic testing is basically a DNA test, which we are now running in all our heifers. For us, it's a simple tissue sample, which we use an ear sample, similar to a tag sample. You can use both. We send them away to the lab, and after about 6 weeks, we can get the results back. And essentially, it's like a bull-proof. I think there could be at least 50 traits plus on each heifer. So it gives us a huge amount of information to make decisions with.
In terms of the traits, you mentioned it gives you about 50 different traits. What specific traits are you looking for then?
So when I'm selecting a bull, currently what's important to me is yield, first and foremost. I like to keep an eye on solids as well, as they're also important. The next thing I'll be looking for right now is PLI, as it gives me a good balanced view of the health traits of the animal, and that means I'm getting an overall good improvement to the herd as well as watching production traits. I also prefer lower stature bulls. We're not looking to have big cows here, but I do like ones with average chest width, so they still have a good amount of capacity and aren't too fragile. The last thing I would maybe also find interesting is the feed advantage, which is a score of how much a cow eats compared to the average cow, which leads to better feed efficiency.
You mentioned there the sort of sample, it's very similar to like an ear tag type thing. Talk me through what's involved in that. How do you actually take a sample and how often would you do it?
So to start off our genomic journey, last May, we sampled 130 heifers between roughly 4 months and 16. And now we just do probably when they're small calves, and we'll aim to send about 25 samples away every 6 to 8 weeks. So it's an ongoing process of just continuing to send them away.
Is genomic testing a relatively new thing, or would you say it's been on the go for a while now?
Well, it feels new to me, but I think it's been on the go for quite some time now. AI companies have obviously been using it for years to select the best bulls, and I think now the AI companies are even trying to get the genomics from the embryos so they can speed up the journey even quicker. But I would say in the commercial herds, it's still just working its way into them. I think I was glad to adopt the technology as it's a slow process improving genetics. So I thought the sooner I started, the sooner I was getting the opportunity to improve my herd with it.
How would you say, James, that genomic testing has improved performance or even your on farm decision making?
I think the biggest improvement right now, with a small portion of the herd tested, is the data it's allowing us to input into our mating program. We run a genus mating program, which we are now feeding in the genomic results. So it selects the best cows that are either milking or maiden heifers with the best PLI. So we are breeding replacements from the best part of our herd. This should help us create a much more uniform herd compared to what we were doing before, as it quickly eliminates any lower PLI maiden heifers we might have used in the past. We do have some milking heifers going through the parlour, but it's still early for us to say for sure if the genomics is matching up. But I'm excited to see over the coming years what happens.
Just quickly, for the benefit of non dairy farmers or anyone that's listening to this that perhaps doesn't know what PLI stands for, what does it stand for? And can you give us an example?
So PLI is really just an index that summarizes as a combination of production traits and health traits to give an overall balanced view of an animal without it being weighted too much in any direction. So I think it's a good overall way of seeing you're improving production but also maintaining your health traits.
Now, it's early stages for you. I understand that. Based on your experiences recently, have there been any challenges or anything that farmers should be aware of?
So far for us, it's been fairly straightforward. Once you get the initial test done, it's just a case of keeping up to date, testing new calves and sending them off, which is a fairly easy process for us.
If I was a farmer listening to this, what key piece of advice would you give me on where to start or how to start?
I think for me, the key thing is just starting. Get in touch with a company you like to work with, and they'll all come out and explain the advantages of genomics to you. As I say, genetics is a slow process. So once you start, you're getting the data through, and at that point, you can make decisions in maiden heifers that you might not want to continue to breed with, and you might actually be able to take advantage of cows that are in your herd that you didn't know about. From a cost point of view, I've worked out overall I spend about zero point 0.7 to 0.65 pence per litre on AI costs, and zero point 0.1 pence per litre for is for testing now. So I would say there's real opportunity for a big return on investment for these costs compared to some other things you might spend money on in the farm.
There's clearly quite tangible benefits for the cattle and herd health. There's also an obvious benefit to farm decision making and profitability. Would you say there's also a benefit to the environment?
I think there definitely is. I think farmers are easily convinced to help the environment. It also helps them. So, for example, increasing feed efficiency not only improves your profit line, but is also good for the environment as you're using less feed. So, feed advantage is a trait that we measure on now, where it shows us, for example, if I have the choice between two bulls that produce the same amount of milk, um, one cow might eat 200 kilos and one might eat 100. So it's an easy way to pick which is the bull I would want to work with.
I just want to touch very, very briefly, not relating so much to your own system as such, but I believe that you are a member of the Sustainable Dairy Lanarkshire Fast Connect group. And I believe that you were recently away on a jolly, or should I say, a learning journey to Denmark. I wonder, what was your key highlight from that trip?
No, we had a good educational trip away to Denmark for a couple of days. Uh, Over there, the standard is unbelievably high in dairy farming. One of the first farms we went to happened to actually be one of the highest feed advantage herds in Europe, I believe. For me, I found that really interesting, as I could see his cows were actually of probably smaller stature than average here, but they were producing huge amounts of milk, and he just recently converted to robots and was going really well. He also had a very interesting camera system, which was allowing him to monitor through some form of 3D technology and then AI to measure the amount of feed each cow consumed, which I was really impressed with.
James, if I'm a dairy farmer listening to this, what key piece of advice would you give me on where to start with genomic testing?
I think the best way to get started with genomic testing is get in touch with a company you like working with, and I'm sure they'll come out and explain the scientific method and all behind it. But I think the best thing to do is make a start. I think when genetics is slow to improve, the sooner you start, the better.
James, I think it's really interesting, and it's great to hear about the improvements that you've made at home to cattle or herd health decision making. But I think it's also lovely to hear about the tangible benefits there of the Fast Connect group and the ability to go overseas and learn about other systems and hopefully take some of that information and data back home, as well as I'm sure the social side, which is hugely valuable and very much enjoyed too. James, just finally, thank you very much for taking time out your day, and I wish you all the very best with it.
No, thanks for that. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, James. How are you getting on today?
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm doing good, thank you.
Good stuff. So based on what we've heard from James Strang, what are your initial thoughts?
It sounds like James is doing the right thing when it comes to his dairy herd. I'm a big believer in using genomics and using data to improve your breeding system. I am the facilitator of the Farm Advisory Service Connect group, Sustainable Dairy Lanarkshire, of which James is a member. So I was the one that organised that trip to Denmark to see various Viking genetics sites. So after that trip, I kind of came home thinking any dairy farmer that's not using genomics is going to fall behind.
So what are some of the highlights? I guess if we split it into two, if we think about Temple's farm first of all, and then we can touch on the trip later on. But thinking about James's enterprise and the genomics, what's the key takeaways for you from that?
Yeah, so genomically testing his heifers will allow him to build up a data set to predict how his replacements, how his heifers are going to perform over their lifetime. So he's going to be able to use that to continually inform his decision making about breeding and replacement. So you'll be able to pick the best heifers before they've even started their productive lifestyle to take into his herd. So he's going to be able to remove ones that aren't going to, that genetically are indicated that they won't perform as well as others. Be able to remove them from the herd. So it's exponential, the gains that he's going to be able to have and benefit from.
Is genomic testing a fairly common thing, or is it fairly new, James?
So it's not new. It's been around for a couple of decades now, but it's getting more and more popular.
And in terms of some of the data that it can bring to a dairy farm, what are some of the benefits of it?
Yeah, so as I said, you'll be able to use that data, the indexes around the lifetime performance. It's been benefits wise. I mean, if you're just speaking financially, research has shown that using genomic testing can lead to a difference in profitability over a cow's lifetime of up to £430. A herd that genomically tests 75 to 100% of its heifers have an average profitability lifetime index, a PLI, of £430. This is compared with just £237 for herds that only test between 0 and 25% of their heifers genomically. So that's a £193 gap per animal. So that amounts to tens of thousands of pounds in added profit for farms that are doing genomic testing. With for a 175 cow herd, that's £19,300. However, this same research concluded that in real world terms, so not just theoretical, the margin could be up to £50,000 between these different types of herds. So genomic testing, the research is all there to show that it does have a massive gain in terms of profitability. You're also going to benefit from improved selection accuracy with your genomics. So you're not going to, typically when you're selecting heifers to bring into your herd, a lot of farmers are doing it by eye, just with how the cow looks, whereas this is actually how it's going to perform. Okay. You're also able to optimize your use of sex semen. So you're going to be able to use your sex semen, put your best heifers and spend the money on sex semen and them. So you're going to be able to target that more expensive types of semen on your top performing heifers. So you're also going to benefit from lower replacement costs as well. So by selecting traits like fertility, longevity, genomics is going to help you raise animals that stay productive for longer. It's going to reduce your replacement rate of heifers, as fewer heifers are going to have to be reared, because the ones that are reared are going to be living longer, healthier, more productive lives. Okay. You're also going to have a long-term genetic gain as well, as this breeding system, data-driven, is going to be more effective than a breeding system that isn't data-driven. You're going to see that genetic gain go a lot faster. Your cattle will get better, quicker than your neighbour down the road who's not genomically testing. So you will see yourself in the production of your cows start to leave folk that are not doing it and their cattle behind. Environmentally, this translates, particularly with kind of indexes like feed efficiency. You're going to see a carbon benefit from that as well. Research has shown that over the next 20 years, by using genetic testing, that they estimate they were going to be able to cut emissions by up to 20% per kilogram of milk produced. So it's absolutely massive, the potential that genomic testing has to change the game in dairy and other sectors. It's like in 20 years' time, cattle that are bred through genomic testing breeding systems are going to far out perform, outlive, and live far healthier lives than cattle bred through conventional breeding systems.
And what are some of the considerations that dairy farmers should have around genomics?
So, considerations around it is really, you've got to, well, first of all, are you going to do it? you have to consider whether you're going to do it, and to consider that, again, talk to people who are doing it, talk to the companies who, the kind of experts who offer these services. I mean, Scotland's actually, the Scottish scientific community is one of the best in the world with genomics. Scottish scientists were involved in the development of all of this, so it's not a technology that was developed in a far off country that we're bringing over here. This is Scottish science was at the heart of development of genomic testing. I mean, eGenes is one of the biggest laboratories that do the genetic profiling for cattle, and it's based in Edinburgh. So the science is all there, and we can trust it. In terms of considerations when you're actually selecting your indexes that you want to target, the kind of common ones are like your feed efficiency, longevity, and fertility indexes. These are the kind of key ones that you want to be considering. So if you're a farmer looking to start doing this, I would say consider what your aims are for your herd. What do you want them to do? What size do you want your cows to be? How much yield do you want for them? And then you put weighting on those indexes when you're selecting your semen based on that, and when you're selecting your heifers as well.
If I'm a farmer listening to this, James, as I'm sure many will be, where would I start in terms of genomic testing?
So I'd start with doing a bit of background reading. So there's lots of good resources on the Farm Advisory Service website and also the Agricultural Horticultural Development Board's website on genomic testing. So I'll do a bit of background reading, and then I'd also talk to other dairy farmers who are already doing it. If you're a member of a dairy group or a FAS Connect kind of group, any agricultural discussion group really, I'd go to the people in that group who are doing it and find out how they've got into it, what their top tips are, and then once I'd kind of decided that I was going to do it, you've then got to kind of pick your genetic selection, your breeding programs. They're typically all done through specialist companies that offer these services. Each company offers something slightly different. They're kind of focused on a different type of cow, so you just got to look at the market and decide what kind of cow you want in your farm in future, and then go with the company that you think best fits what you're looking for.
Now, you touched earlier, James, about you as part of your role within the Farm Advisory Service is you are facilitator, if that's correct. You're facilitator of the Sustainable Dairy Lanarkshire Group. What's involved in that?
So the Farm Advisory Service Connect programme involves 42 groups, something like that, across Scotland. Unlike the typical Farm Advisory Service farm meeting where it's open, these groups are closed. So we recruit a certain number of farmers into the group. Typically it's self-recruited, so the farmers, we want them all to be like-minded, and the farmers, they know other farmers who are like-minded, who are pulling in the same direction. They're all trying to adopt the same kind of system. So they recruit people who they know into those groups, and once we're a kind of number of about 15 to 20, we'll close the group. And that means having a closed group allows the farmers to become very comfortable with each other in terms of allows them to comfortably share information, share their wins and their losses, share what's done well, what's happened well on their farm and what's not went so well. It allows them to support each other, and they all build up trust, and that enables that kind of open sharing of information, which really allows you to actually to improve together if you're all pulling in the same direction. So my job as facilitator is effectively just to kind of do what I'm told by them. So the groups are all farmer-led. They decide what we want to go and do, where they want to go and do it, and I'm in charge of organising it. So, for example, so for the last year, for 2025, the group decided they wanted to learn about genomics. So we organised an introductory meeting, just in an evening in a pub function room, where we got dinner, and we invited along Dr. Mike Coffey from SRUC, who works in the eGenes lab. So he's one of the experts in genomics, world-renowned. We're very lucky to have such distinguished, kind of knowledgeable scientists just on our doorstep in Scotland. So he gave us an introduction to genomics, kind of the theory of it, the history of it, and then that was followed by a study tour to Denmark in conjunction with Viking Genetics, which is a company that import Danish genetics into the UK. So the Danish farmers, they kind of widely adopted genomic testing a couple of decades ago. So their kind of data set and the kind of genetic gain they've managed to get through these breeding programs, it's basically made their cows are quite valuable, and those genetics are quite valuable. So valuable enough for that a company to be set up by them, owned by the farmers, called Viking Genetics, which imports their dairy genetics into the UK, where British farmers are buying that genetics and benefiting from all the hard work that the Danish farmers have done over the last couple of decades in breeding really productive, efficient cows.
Based on your trip to Denmark, if there was one key highlight or one key takeaway from that trip that you could share for other farmers listening to this, what would it be?
I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to cut it down to just one benefit. I'm going to go for two, if that's okay. The group and myself were very impressed with the weighting that they place on feed efficiency in their genomic selection. So, I mean, feed efficiency is something that we do look at in the UK, and we do there is a certain weighting placed on that, but we don't weight it as highly as they do. So, I mean, they really weight feed efficiency. So when we were at one of the farms, it was a Jersey farm, and their top yielding Jersey was actually it was super feed efficient. It was eating about 2 kilograms less than the cow with the poorest feed efficiency. That's over a lifetime. That difference in feed efficiency is absolutely massive. Massive savings for the farmer in terms of reduced feed cost, but also savings in terms of your carbon footprint as well, because that feed's not having to. It doesn't have to be produced. So that was very impressive. So certainly quite a few of the members in the group have started to place a lot higher emphasis on feed efficiency indexes in their genomic selection. The other thing that really impressed the group was the Danish farmers' willingness to invest in cow comfort. So, I mean, in Scotland, I think we place a lot of pride in our cow comfort in the dairy sector. I think we all think we're doing a good job cow comfort wise, but certainly the Danish kind of viewed it a bit differently. They seem to see investment, quite significant investment. We're talking hundreds of thousands of euros. These guys were investing in making their cows more comfortable, and they seen that as a no-brainer. That cow comfort equals milk, which equals money. So that was impressive. So certainly a lot of the group members, they were coming home and they were looking at how they can change their cow accommodation to make their cattle more comfortable.
For anyone listening to this that might be interested in getting involved in either your Fast Connect group or many other Fast Connects group across Scotland, how can they go about it?
Yep. So, so even though I said the groups are closed, we do still recruit new members into our group every year. Because they're closed groups, we've got key performance indicators to meet as well as groups. So the Scottish Government, who fund the Farm Advisory Service, for them to continue to fund these groups, we have to show that the groups are doing well and they're beneficial to the farmers. So each year there is group members who just can't, due to life circumstances out with their control, they can't commit to the group for that year, or maybe that lack of ability to commit due to things that are happening in their life where they're just busy. That can last for a couple of years. So typically they'll leave the group for a period, and that allows us to recruit new members into the group as well. So we are constantly recruiting. I'm sure all the other groups are the same. If you're looking to get involved in the Farm Advisory Service Connect, you can contact the Farm Advisory Service and basically find out what groups are active in your area. There's a FAS Connect page on the Farm Advisory Service website where you can see what groups are active and also the contact number for the facilitators of those groups. So just get in contact with us and we'll see if you're the right fit for the group, because obviously we want the group to all be pulling in the same direction. So if you're pulling in the same direction as the group is, you'd be more than welcome. And if not, if there isn't a group that meets what you're doing, there's new groups start up every single year. So if there's enough appetite for a certain topic to be covered, or for a particular type of farmer they're all wanting to pull in the same direction in an area that's not currently covered by FAS Connect, we would definitely look at starting up a group focusing on that subject.
Very good, James. I think we've covered a lot of ground this afternoon. Genomics, and also hearing about the successes of your FAS Connect group. I think really, just to summarise, data is really improving on-farm decision-making, improving performance, as you said. Cattle are living longer, more productive lives. There's also the benefits to animal health and welfare, longer-term genetic gain. We also touched on feed efficiency. I think there's lots to be gained through genomics, and also there's the environmental benefit, there's the carbon benefit. So you said it very well, James. You said genomics could be a real game changer in the sector. So finally, I just want to thank you very much for coming on this afternoon, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for this special episode of the Rural Roundup. Check out the other 5 episodes of the Unsung Heroes series, all available to listen wherever you normally do right now. If you'd like to get in touch or find out more about anything that we've discussed in the podcast, head to the show notes. This episode was presented by me, Calum Johnston, produced by Kerry Hammond, and edited by Cameron Walsh in association with the Scottish Government.